Yes, sir. It's your boy Kaiju. Today, 6 ways to get better in the mid lane laning phase. Let's get it. So for the first one, it's going to be on the topic of warding spots. All right. We're going to be covering, I guess, 3 different areas you can ward. And this is pretty much going to have different levels, level 1, 2, and 3, depending on your skill level of your warding knowledge. The number 1 spot would be in the side brush of your mid lane. And that's the most common way. Of course, obviously, if you don't already know that, you are already behind. But if you do know this, obviously, that it's common knowledge. Most mid lanes should know how to ward here. One little thing, though, a lot of people don't know is when you ward in the mid lane in the side brushes, you have to ward it closer to the edge of your end, right around here. Because if your opponent somehow gets vision, they're gonna want to auto it to death, obviously killing it. And if they're having to be closer to you, it's a lot more accessible for you to just go up and auto them, put a little bit aggro. Just, you know, not letting them get that warding spot for free. That's what you want to do. And of course, they're going to be doing the same, so everybody's just going to have their wards kind of on opposite ends. So that would be your ideal spot to ward it if you're going to ward in the side brush. Pros and cons about this spot. Obviously, if we're going about pros, decent, it's quick and fast. You run up to it, you go behind this little wall, you ward, decent, fine. They don't even know if you warded it or not. Cons about it is just it only gives you so much vision. Unless you're quick thinking on your feet, it can kind of, you know, help, I guess, if somebody's trying to run you down, engage, and 1v2 and you're dead. Or possibly just, you can see someone, let's say, hitting the scuttle. That actually happens. You can see the enemy jungler hitting the scuttle. And you can, you know, possibly, you know, warn your jungler. I'll give you a little bit of knowledge. Not too much, though. It's just a simple warning spot so you don't get fucked on the side. But the ultimate con about this is that other junglers will most likely know this common knowledge that you ward in the side brush, and it's in fact actually the most common place to ward as a mid laner. The jungler will most likely, if he's good, will go around the wall behind you, and thus pretty much going around your defenses, which is your warding spot. And then you're having to look into, you know, shit, should I have to waste a flash? How am I going to get out of this? When really you could have just warded in a different spot and that would have helped you. But nevertheless, it's actually not a bad warding spot in the earlier phase of the laning. I'd say a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you know. But it's not a bad spot to learn, though. That would be your level 1 warding spot. Level 2 warning spots would be out where in the middle of the bush that kind of, it's in the center of the river-ish. You know, it leads you enough vision overall into the middle of the river in front of the Baron pit. It even leaves you a little bit of vision coming out and in of both your enemy and ally junglers. It also gives you a little bit of vision in front of your side brush. It's a very versatile spot. Commonly placed mainly for pinks, actually. That's a good place for pinks as well. But that spot, and not only the spot kind of in the middle in between the little entrance of your allies jungler. And the reason why is because, again, we've covered the fact that level 1 warding spot has a few flaws, which is the jungler going around that little area to come around you. Now here's the thing, if you ward in that little corner right here, you can see the jungler coming around that wall and coming to you. And that right there will grant you, you know, greater knowledge how to prepare for the jungler coming around you, behind you. And that's going to give you a lot more time to not only prepare for it, or possibly counter it as well. Very good spot, though. That warning spot is actually pretty good for junglers that just love to come around that wall. It could be some of the Shakos or Master Yi's. Most of the junglers that will go around that wall would be junglers that don't exactly have the CC necessary to come across you. You'll see a lot of assassins that'll do that. They don't really have CC, they just have the damage. And of course, if they can run up to you and get, you know, the damage off, then obviously they're not going to get their job done. However, if they come around behind you, allowing, you know, them to have enough time to possibly kill you or even put enough damage, make you waste a flash, then they've got their job done. So you can avoid that by obviously putting that there. Obviously not the best spot to put a pink, though. However, you can, but I would not recommend it. It would be better placed in the bush in the river. So depending on if you're blue or red side, either side would be pretty good, as well as even pushing it, you know, on the bush right here. This is also another good spot for pink as well, even just a regular warding. But again, it's not as good as the one in the brush in the middle. So those would be your level 2 warning spots. And for your level 3, and this would be more advanced, because not only does it make you go through a risk of having to get caught, but also having to go into the enemy jungler. So these warning spots are going to be in the enemy jungler's raptor camps or red camps, right? So depending if you're blue or red side, if you are blue side, you're going to be going up to the top left where the enemy raptors are. Placing a ward right there would be really efficient. Not only will you know where your jungler is, you'll know that he's doing raptors. Public knowledge to everybody, including your jungler. Your jungler will realize that, oh, he's starting, raptors. He can instantly look on the map and probably, predict that he's going to go red to, Krugs, possibly going to gank top. It's going to give a lot of knowledge and counter, knowledge to your ally jungler. So he can possibly go into the enemy jungler, basically blue side while he's on the red side, counter invade. There's a lot of stuff that can go good for your team. So not only putting it on the raptors, but also putting it on that same side in the red side, in that red buffs little corner. That also helps too as well. A lot of things you could do with that is if you have your lane pushed up, you can easily just walk around, throw an ability, steal it, or even possibly kill him, and the enemy mid laner is gonna have no idea that just happened because you have the lane pushed and he has forced to stay. It's a really good spot. So those are pretty much your main 3 spots for the mid lane warding. There's really not other spaces you can really ward them as well. Those are like the main spots. You can pretty much just not just pick a certain ward spot. It's always good to rotate them. It's really not hard for a jungler to tell you're warding in the same spot. So if you're warding in different spots consistently, I think overall that's probably your best bet. Depending on the situation, the champs, and everything else, you can pretty much have any warding spot you'd like and just pick whichever fits the situation. Now on to learning how to control the Minion Wave. Okay, now the Minion Wave, this one's a little bit hard for most people because not only is CSing a little bit of an issue, even in like high elo, learning how to not push the wave, learning how to freeze is also another thing that mid laners don't know how to do or struggle with, and that they should practice because it's a very, very useful tool and it's going to help you in the long run, especially if you are playing a very roaming mid lane champ. That's going to help you go top bot, maybe enemy junglers. This is something you can't do if your lane's pushed in. So learning when to push your lane and when not to push your lane, so I guess that's one good start. What a lot of people do accidentally is they ended up using too many abilities that, whether single target or AoE, accidentally kills the minion and end up having the wave push upward, and that leaves you with a very vulnerable spot. Not only is the minion wave pushing towards the enemy tower, in order to stay within XP range and possibly still farming, you have to stay very pushed up to the enemy laner's tower, leaving you a good amount of space for the enemy jungler to come to gank you. However, unless you're playing a champ that can escape very well, which not many mid laners have, that would not be the ideal thing to do. So one thing to avoid this is to match your, I guess you could call it, the push and pull of the mid laner Minion Wave. If your opponent is, autoing the minions every time until it kills it, just, a steady pace of farming, you should do the same unless, however, you want to freeze. In this case, you want to do the same thing because that would create an equilibrium. If both enemy mid laners are constantly autoing the minions back to back, then both minions will probably die around the same time, and thus having the mid lane stay at a constant midpoint. If the enemy, mid laner is pushing, it could either mean A, he's trying to push to, let's say, help get an objective or roam, or he's probably B, bad. He's pushing up and he doesn't know that. So your reaction is to think and know your enemy. Is he trying to push and gank top or bot? Look at the situations. Is top bot vulnerable? Can he roam? What can he do after pushing? Can he really try to shove in the lane and see if I can't CS just because of that? One thing you can do against that is just do the same thing. If he's using abilities to shove in the minions, you should do the same so you can stay at a decent equilibrium. Anything you can do to match him as best as you can without having to waste a lot of resources. Another thing you could do, of course, when freezing is deliberately autoing the minion slowly, or just only obviously last hitting it. What that does is obviously make the minion killing process very slow. And let's say your minion wave is around in front of your turret, right? There's about like 3 caster minions in the back. You can kill them instantly. You can auto them until they're dead, or you can just simply wait till the minions have them at 1 HP and auto them last second, and thus having the enemy minions come closer to you as a result of that. Whereas if you would have killed the caster minions, both minions would have met at the midpoint. Now that is what is called as freezing, when you pretty much stall your lane to stay at a certain point and the minions end up coming all the way towards you. And of course the minions are just gonna run past the enemy minions, okay? They have to fight each other first before they go anywhere. So if you keep them at one spot in front of your turret, which is probably the best spot, not only does that make them having to stay pushed up and stay near for EXP range, but not only your ally jungler can kind of come in and help you with that. So that is what's known as freezing. You can pretty much do that at any point, but once you master pretty much the minion wave control, that's gonna be a really good useful tool for most mid laners. And now for snowballing and trading. So this one, it goes without saying, there's not much to say about this. It's just knowing, of course, when to go in and when not to go in, knowing when your enemy, mid laner is gonna have 6 soon and he's gonna all in on you, know how much damage you have currently, pretty much know everything, your flash, his flash, your ignite, your barrier, whatever, know the minion situation. Obviously you do not want to, aggro and try to go all in on him when he has more minions than you. That is going to be a very, very big issue for you. So know when that's going to happen. Another thing is a really good tip you could possibly learn and use that's very useful is knowing when to use an ability to not only get CS but also to aggro at the same time. We can take any champ for example. We could even say Vilcos for example. You throw a Q, you get that mana gain back from killing the minion. However, there's a chance that you can also not only kill the minion but also hit the enemy mid lane as well, which is pretty much like 2 birds, 1 stone. If you're gonna use an ability to get CS, it's probably best to utilize it to also not only kill the minions but also aggro and hit the enemy mid laner. That goes long ways. Most mid lane champs, or at least mid lane players in general, most of their mistakes is they'll use an ability just to hit you, and they'll use an ability just to hit the minion wave instead when they could do both, and that's gonna go a long ways. Pretty much it's just knowing how much damage you have, knowing how to trade, knowing how to hit abilities on him and get the better pick to trade on him. Nothing much to say here. Just know how to do that efficiently. You definitely don't want the enemy laner to throw abilities at you and you do nothing in return. However, unless you are a farming champ like Veigar, then yeah, you should probably use your abilities back at him as much as possible. Unless you are the one to be aggro and initiate, which in case let's say like LeBlanc or Ari, then you might want to be the one doing that. But if the enemy mid laner is very aggro to you, you definitely don't want to let them hit you for free. You want to throw something back at him. Again, it kind of goes back to the mid lane wave. Keep it at an equilibrium. He hits you, you got to hit him back, or he's gonna slowly chunk you away until he all ins on you, makes you waste flash, or the enemy jungler ganks and kills you. So you want to keep all of those possibilities in mind, and you'll be in check. And now that we got that done, now we're gonna go with builds. Okay, this one's kind of a quick, easy one. This is kind of a lot of mid laners don't know a lot about this. Is that their most common mistake is going into the mid lane and building the same items the exact same way every game. That's something you don't want to do as mid laner. There's a couple of reasons why. Obviously, one, unless you're going to get the same team comp, the enemy team comp every game, you're most likely not going to build the same, because we could just take a simple easy champ like Ari. Your matchup is against Zed. You're not gonna build the same Morellas, Ludens, Sorcerers. You're most likely gonna get some armor cloth. You're gonna build Zonias. You're even gonna have to get Rylai's for the health. Maybe throw in a Morellas in there somewhere. You're just not exactly gonna go the same build. You have to build accordingly and situationally. Some team comps are gonna force you to get even GA sometimes. Some of them's gonna force you to get other items that's off course. Just one key thing to know is look more depth into your champion that you're playing and look at the possible items they could pick situationally. And if you could see at least maybe 12 other items that champ could build, then you'll be set. Just you have to know when to pick certain items into certain team comps. Know when to get magic resist. Know when to get magic pen, armor, anything that's necessary, and that's just knowledge on the champ and team comp on itself. So one thing that's going to help you in the long run is knowing just what items to build in general. So we're going to be talking about roaming. All right, this is very important as a mid lane, as our power spike is in the mid game, right? When you push a lane, you can easily just roam top or bot, get a kill. You can roam and help with your jungler, get the enemy jungler, I guess. Roaming is very, very important. You have to understand you are in the mid lane and it's the center of the map. You don't really have an excuse not to go roam top or bot unless, you know, you're against your countered lane and you're pushed to the brim. You should probably roam as much as possible. Mid lane is essentially a secondary jungler, and that's why when you have your items, you have your power spike, you need to utilize your advantage. And that's another thing about roaming, is using your advantage. You can be very fed in lane, right? You can dominate, you know, you can, you know, get a lot of 6-0 his ass, right? But you're not really using that advantage after constantly killing him. You may tilt him, but instead of, you know, killing top or bot, which would have got you more, you know, gold, more XP, you're just constantly killing the mid lane that's giving you like 25 Gs. You might as well just farm the minion. And yeah, sure, you may have gotten a tower. However, you yourself being fed doesn't really mean that much if you can't exactly carry the game or put pressure or do anything else. If you're fed, even if it's just 2 kills, you should at least go top and it spread it, okay? Think of it as like this, right? When you're fed, okay, you're just this big block of butter on like one part of the bread, okay? And that's not exactly going to do anything. Like, that's wasted potential, wasted pressure, wasted everything. You want to make sure you spread it evenly. Top, bot, jungle, whoever needs the help, and that's going to help you win games essentially. A lot of the mid lanes, they make the mistake of getting kills, they get fed. However, they don't utilize that and spread it evenly. Let's say get objectives, kill people, group, roam. That's very, very, very important. And roaming is essentially what is part of mid lane. You know, top you have it's roaming. Fuck. You have top, it's staying top and pretty much making sure they don't get the tower. TP when necessary, farm, just go into late game and build tank. Jungler, it's obviously, he's a waitress, he goes around killing people, ganking helps. Mid lane, you gotta roam as well, also win lane, and hopefully you can kind of make the mid game pressure kick in, because that's when you have your power spike. And bot lane's pretty much, it's just like farm to win late game essentially. So as mid lane, you can not only help top get herald, you can help bot get drag, you can help with, you can find a way to help your team. And that's how we're gonna go into the grouping with your jungler or anyone. Last thing you want to know in mid lane phases, you don't want to just stay there. Again, obviously, you know, we've talked about roaming, but however, let's say your jungler is being attacked by enemy jungler, unless, you know, you don't have vision on the route, you're going to help your jungler, because let's say, you know, your enemy jungler is just attacking your jungler, and your enemy mid laner is just staying in the bush, you know, that you don't have vision on, and he's gonna wait for you to come out, and he sees you come into your ally jungler, he just all ins on you, you know. Sometimes I understand you can't help your jungler because there's just no vision necessary, but in most cases when your jungler is attacking, you want to help him. You want to go out and help him as, you know, quick as possible. Not only is that going to make your teammate less tilted, but it also shows that you have map awareness, and that's very, very important. Just help your team essentially, and the best way of helping your team is map awareness. You want to, in the mid lane, look at your map at least every 3 to 5 seconds, glance at it, and try to, you know, picture that, you know, that little screenshot you did. You know, just look, like, you know, look away. You don't have to look at it for too long. Just yeah, you see 2 top laners top, you see 2 mids, you know, 4 bot, right? It's just, you gotta know where, you know, people are missing, when people aren't missing, know when to take advantage of something. Just make sure you help your opponent, okay? Don't stick in the mid lane and stay, you know, farming when you're, let's say, top lane is getting chased down river, or when bot lane's about to get fucked. You know, just don't stay mid. Even if your mid laner is going bot, you should trail unless you don't have vision, because again, like I said, the enemy mid laner could fake a roam bot and just wait in the bush for you and just all in when you have no vision. But for the most part, just take a safe route, go bot, roam, be involved, you know, be active, do everything as much as possible as a mid laner. Otherwise, there's no reason for you to play mid. You should just probably play top if you're not really looking for pressure. You're just looking for that late game good CS and TP, you know. And that's pretty much it. That's all I have for the 6 tips for the getting better in the mid lane laning phase. Make sure you sub and like for more league mid lane tips. I'm gonna be making more of these, so make sure you sub to see more of these. And yeah, thanks for watching. Peace.